Hello. Um, yeah, back again with another video. Today we're going to be discussing something, and I have literally 25 gigabytes free, plus I'm downloading a game, so yeah, my storage is going to hurt after this. But anyway, yeah, different platforms. Well, this is going to be one hell of a war zone. All I'm going to say is, to start things off, doesn't matter what it doesn't really matter what platform you play on. Everyone's a gamer, and it shouldn't matter. What I'm trying to do here is objectively measure different platforms, and maybe throw some subjectivity in. I mean, I will say my personal favourite, and I think there's an objective best. I think there's also a subjective best. So I mean, first off, PC. I mean, it's got a lot of pros. I mean, the biggest one and the first one is choice. I mean, when you first get thinking about getting a computer, you have the choice of laptop or desktop. Are you going to trade a bit of performance for portability, or not? And then if you choose a desktop, you have, build, buy, or custom. And then if you choose if you choose build or custom, which are kind of both ends of the price range, it's cheapest to build, most expensive to custom. Pre-built's in the middle. But if you choose either of those, you have nearly unlimited control over what actually goes into there. I mean, sometimes with custom, you can't choose like your case or just something really mediocre. There's something that doesn't really make a huge difference to performance. And then you have the choice of, do you want to ghost? Do you want to get this? Do you want to get that? Are you going to get? Then you have the choice of whether or not where to buy games from. Do I think it's ethical to buy games of G2A when they might just be pirated? Do I get them off Steam? Do I this and that? And then there's and then the next big one is value. So first of all, I'm going to say that this first of all, I'm talking about PS4 and Xbox One here. It's very easy to build a PC for the same price with more power, but that's because it's the end of the generation. I don't know. Let's say for a second that the PS5 and Xbox, we know, and the new Xbox, we know they're going to be powerful, but we don't know how much they're going to cost. If it turns out that they're excellent value and blow PCs out of the water, PCs will probably still be better value because games are cheaper. Steam sales, I can tell you the value of PC. So there's this thing called the Valve Pack on Steam, where you can basically get more or less every big release by Valve, or every release by everything owned by Valve. Obviously not Half-Life Alyx included, but it's normally £100. Now, bearing in mind these are like mainly old games such as Half-Life and that sort of thing, that's usually a pretty decent deal. But there was one Steam sale where that was 95% off. It contained 20 games, so I got 20 games for a £5. Now that's pretty good value. Plus, there's no having to pay for online. So even if a PC is more expensive up front, like a 500 quid PC versus a £350 console, or if you buy let's say you buy a reasonable number of games every year and pay for online, slowly what will happen is console prices will slowly overtake PC, because what happens is, sure, you spend lots of money up front, but then you pay once and then you don't have to pay again in a way. And even if to be honest, none of this really matters, because the fact is a PC can do way more than a console. I mean, what can a console do? It can play games, maybe watch Netflix. If it's the Switch, it can be portable. it probably has a pretty terrible internet browser plugged in. What can you do on a PC? That's like asking, what can you do? You can do so many things on a PC. You can do your job. You especially in this time when everyone's working from home. If you have a good solid PC, that's great because you can work from home on your computer and game on it as well. You can do all sorts of brilliant things. Mods. I mean, there's what can I say, right? And not all mods are bad. There are some very funny ones. I mean, I don't see there being anything wrong with being able to adapt the game to you. And the next one is controller. Now, a lot of people, and I guess this also would come into setup, which I've placed here. What people will say is when they discuss PC is like, oh, I don't want to play with a mouse and keyboard at a desk. You don't have to play with mouse and keyboard at a desk. You can play on a TV. It's just an HDMI cable. It doesn't make a difference. Plus, PC can use any controller. I mean, sure, if you want to use like a Commodore 64 controller, you may need to. Do they use controllers? I think I don't know. If you want to use some really obscure controller, then you might have to get certain drivers. But otherwise, like an Xbox controller, PS4 controller, you can hook up. If you spend some big, if you spend money, if you choose to get a nice motherboard, you might get Bluetooth as well, or even a mediocre motherboard. You might get Bluetooth as well, allowing you to use Bluetooth controllers. And then upgradable hardware. This is one lots of people like to say, oh, upgradable hardware. You have to upgrade every, it goes from like every 3 years you have to upgrade to. There are people who I'm pretty sure legitimately believe that you have to upgrade your hardware every month to stay on top. No, you don't. You don't have to, unless you get like an absolute mega budget rig. Like, if you choose to buy a PC for 150 quid or dollars, or I mean it's the same thing really. Inflation in the UK is so high, but like if you choose to get a cheap computer, of course you're going to be upgrading it. It's because you got a cheap computer. But if you get like a decent one, and when I say decent, I don't mean like a 2,000 quid. I mean, there are £500 gaming rigs that will last you a couple of years easily, and obviously the more you spend, the longer you'll be able to have without upgrading. And the last one, exclusives. This is another one, and I'd say this one's quite subjective, but if you were going to objectify exclusives, the fact is that PC has far, far more exclusives than all the consoles combined. It has. The fact is, when it comes to and that's including emulators, because what happens is PC has all the multiplats. I'm pretty sure it has all the multiplats anyway. Plus the indie games, the indie developers aren't going to pay extra money to develop on console. Plus emulators, so even games that used to be exclusives, you can just emulate on your computer. And realistically, in the future, these consoles will be emulated, and we will and eventually, the emulation community is a big one, and it strives to make sure a game is never lost. Now the cons, I mean, they exist. I mean, they're not particularly big. I tried quite hard, as you can probably tell from the second point, but the first one, physical media. Now this is also quite a subjective point, but if you really like having a disc, there's only a few reasons personally there's only a few good console arguments, and those three are, I really like having my physical media. I like all my friends are on this console, and there isn't cross-platform play, and I can only get one device, and one of them has loads of exclusives on one. Now, I think all of these three are very, very good points, but I mean, I'm kind of gonna say that I think the physical media one's probably the best point of them all, because cross-platform's becoming a thing, and I guess when it comes to exclusives, I don't know, that's a very subjective point, but I guess so is physical media. And my other one is pre-builts are usually pretty scammy. My advice, if anyone is thinking about getting a PC, just make sure you do your research, because what happens is people think, oh no, I'm not going to buy, I'm just going to get a pre-built, and then what happens is later down the line, what pre-builts will do is they'll cheap out in certain areas. So if you do enough research just to know what CPU is good, what GPU is good, you might see a really good price for a PC, and you might rank it based on its CPU and GPU. In fact, CyberPower PC, they say how good a PC is simply by CPU and GPU, but the fact is there's really other elements that people don't realise until they get it, because they might think, oh, I'll just upgrade, but it's not as simple as that. If you're upgrading your CPU, you have to get the right motherboard that has a good socket that could support that future CPU, and if you're getting a new graphics card, you have to make sure that they didn't get like a power supply that was just within the bounds of what the PC was. So pre-builts, they look better value than they actually are. So for me personally, I went with a really good solid power supply, because why not? I didn't go for an expensive motherboard, though actually going back on it I would advise it. That's something I probably would change if I did it again, but yeah. Now on to the next one, Nintendo Switch. Personally, this is my I really like this one, but that's a subjective point. I really like Nintendo Switch exclusives. I'm going to say that. I mean, pros, obviously, portability. Nothing else beats the portability of the Switch. Another pro is the modular design. And also exclusives, and Nintendo Switch Online is a lot less than Xbox Live Gold or PS Plus. But for me, the best thing about the Switch is how well it integrates with the PC. I mean, I'd say especially for like a Switch Lite, because a Switch, I think using like if you have to get, what I would say is if you can get two, my advice would be PC and Switch, because then that way you have the power of PC. So when you're at home, if you want to play anything, just play on your PC. But then if you want to play on if you don't care about power, I mean, they're for opposite people, yet they can both be used by the same. So people who don't need power, because they've got all the power they want in their PC, they just want something else. It's kind of the opposite of a desktop, so you can utilize both. I mean, have your desktop at home, have your Switch for the go. I think that's a pretty good system. Plus, it functions fine as a main console, and the Switch Lite is a great kid's first toy. But one thing I find is really annoying is when people act like the Switch is just for kids. I really don't think it is. I mean, sure, it's definitely targeted for it is definitely family friendly. I'm not saying it isn't. You'd have to be kind of an idiot to say it's not. But it's not the Wii U, is all I'm going to say. And then next onto PS4. I mean, pros. With the PS4, I'd say, honestly, people get it for the exclusives, and I don't blame them. I tried to objectively rank this by saying, well, the exclusives are better rated than any others. I mean, you could be really subjective about it and say, oh, I prefer Xbox exclusives. PS4 is quite simple in my mind. It's kind of like a jack of all it's a jack of everything, except exclusives. Actually, no, I wouldn't say it's a jack of all trades. I'd say it's good at exclusives, but I'd say the jack of all trades is Xbox, especially the Xbox One, because I see it as like a PC, but lesser. So, I mean, it's definitely the console with the best value, I think. It screams bang for your buck. It's I know that the Xbox One is cheaper than the PS4. It's not as powerful, fair play, but it's just a good value console, and it's got some very good semi-exclusive games. Personally, actually, I really like some of the Xbox kind of exclusives. They're not really, because you can play them on Windows 10. And I would, if someone is thinking about getting one of the games that's normally on just Xbox on PC, I would strongly advise you to do so, because by buying games that would normally be Xbox exclusives on PC, you show that there is a market for that, and that it makes companies more likely to do that in the future. And I think Xbox that's a very pro-consumer thing for them to do, and I just really like it. So personally, I would say that, I mean, this is my personal opinion, I think the PC is the best, and if you were to objectively measure it, the PC, is the best. But if you really want to play something like Spider-Man PS4, or you want to play really bad one of the PS4 exclusives that isn't being shipped to PC, and you can only get one device, I would still advise you to get the PS4. If there's an exclusive that you're super hyped for, then get it. I mean, if all you're really going to be doing is playing multiplats, then I would advise PC personally. If there's not really one game you really think about, again, PC. But another thing I don't really get is when console players say that the Switch isn't powerful enough. It's kind of like, well, but all I'm going to say is the PC, I don't know, just, get what you want to get. But I hope that I've informed anyone watching this a little more. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.